My girlfriend demanded I go into debt to fund her cosmetic surgeries. When I refused, she blocked me and left. Now a month later, she's back begging to reconcile. I'm a 34-year-old guy. About a year ago, I met someone who initially felt like the missing puzzle piece to my life: fun, supportive, and charismatic. She seemed to appreciate my down-to-earth approach, or so I believed. We started dating seriously, and within months, we were talking about the future, traveling, maybe moving in together. I was thrilled at the idea of building something lasting. A few weeks back, I noticed a shift in her behavior. She began dropping hints about enhancing herself. At first, it was casual remarks about how she wished she had a different nose or wanted a more dramatic figure. I nodded sympathetically, thinking it was just idle talk. I'd reassure her that she looked great as she was, that self-love was important. But she persisted. Eventually, she showed me brochures for cosmetic surgeries: a nose job, liposuction, breast augmentation, all in a single sweep. It shocked me how extensive her plan was. She wore a big smile and explained her vision. She wanted all these procedures done soon, claiming it would transform her life. I tried to be supportive in the sense that if it mattered to her, I'd respect it. But then she dropped the real kicker. She wanted me to pay for it. Not just chip in. She wanted me to take out a sizable loan in my name to fund the entire thing, her dream transformation. Alarm bells rang in my head. I calmly asked why she couldn't fund it herself, or at least share the financial burden. She shrugged, saying her credit was shot from some past mishaps. She assured me it was worth it, that once she looked how she wanted, life would improve for both of us. The sense of entitlement in that moment was staggering. She compared the loan to a romantic investment in our future. "If you truly love me, you do this," she said, locking eyes with me as if daring me to refuse. I tried explaining that going into debt for multiple cosmetic surgeries wasn't a trivial matter. I pointed out the risks, both medical and financial. But she scoffed at my fear, claiming I just didn't want her to be her best self. She insisted real relationships were about sacrifices, and if I was too cheap or too cautious, maybe we weren't aligned. This conversation escalated over a couple of days. I tried to find a middle ground, maybe suggest she start with one procedure and save up for it herself. She dismissed that outright, accusing me of stalling and not believing in her. Our once loving dynamic twisted into near daily arguments about money. She'd mock me, calling me stingy, unromantic, saying I was blocking her path to happiness. Finally, one night, she laid down an ultimatum: take out the loan and schedule the surgeries or I'm done. It felt surreal. We'd started so happily, and now I was being forced into a corner. Either I bury myself in debt for her or lose her altogether. The demand was so extreme that, despite my feelings for her, I couldn't see it as anything but a massive red flag. I refused. Her reaction was swift and dramatic. She sneered, "Then we have nothing left to talk about," and blocked me on every platform: phone, social media, everything. She gathered her stuff from my apartment in record time, leaving me in shock. We'd been planning a future, but it was cast aside the moment I declined to finance her surgeries. A part of me was heartbroken, but another part felt a weary sense of relief that I'd stuck to my principles. The days following our breakup were a haze of regret and confusion. I couldn't stop replaying our final conversation. Had I been too harsh? Was there a better way to approach her concerns? Yet every time I mulled it over, I came to the same conclusion. Her demand was beyond reason. She didn't just want emotional support. She expected me to shoulder a huge financial risk, purely to fulfill her cosmetic goals. I tried to move on. I leaned on friends, explaining the short version. She wanted surgeries, demanded I pay via a loan, and walked away when I refused. My friends were stunned by her audacity. A few asked if I'd seen any early warning signs. In hindsight, I recalled small comments about how men who truly love their partners would never be cheap, or how relationships required big gestures. I brushed them off back then, never guessing she meant going tens of thousands of dollars into debt. In the first couple of weeks, I'd see glimpses of her social media. We might have been blocked, but mutual acquaintances occasionally showed me her posts. She wrote vague references to an unsupportive ex who failed to invest in her happiness. She posted pictures with attention-grabbing captions about how she was moving forward without negativity. The subtext was obvious. Part of me ached, wishing things hadn't gone this sour. Another part wanted to put it all behind me for good. 1 month slipped by. I started feeling stable again, enjoying small routines, focusing on work, going to the gym. The heartbreak faded into a dull memory. Then, unexpectedly, I received a text from a new number. "Hey, can we talk?" My heart pounded. It had to be her. Sure enough, the next message confirmed it was. She said she was sorry about how things ended, that she'd acted out of passion and needed to speak to me face to face. I felt a wave of conflicting emotions, anger at her nerve, curiosity about what she could possibly want now, and maybe a little hope that she might apologize. After some hesitation, I agreed to meet in a public cafe. I wanted a neutral space, just in case things got heated. The day of, I arrived early, scanning for her with a knot in my gut. She walked in, wearing a bright smile that felt oddly forced. It was surreal seeing her after a month of total silence. Before I could even ask how she'd been, she launched into a dramatic story about how she realized she missed me, how she'd been under bad influences that fueled her demands. She claimed she'd told her friends about us and they'd twisted her mind. Now she wanted a second chance. I sat there listening, not sure if I was more flattered or incredulous. She apologized for blocking me so abruptly. But the apology felt half-baked, like she was skimming the surface. She said she didn't mean to scare me off with the surgery requests and that she was willing to compromise. Intrigued, I asked what compromise meant. She replied, "We can do a smaller loan, or maybe just one procedure to start." She was still pushing for me to finance her cosmetic goals, just not as drastically. That moment crystallized things for me. Even after the fiasco, she was back only to request a toned-down version of the same demand. I asked her if she truly missed me, or just missed the possibility of me paying her way. She gave me a wounded look, insisting it was about love. But the conversation kept veering back to how a supportive partner invests in the other's happiness. Frustration simmered in my chest. I told her plainly, I'm not taking out loans for any surgeries, large or small. If you want them so badly, that's your choice and your responsibility. She pouted, then tried tears. She whispered about how she was on the verge of a breakthrough in her self-esteem and how having the procedures would fix everything from her anxiety to her future job prospects. She wanted me to be the hero who made it happen. I felt my temper spike. A relationship isn't about buying someone's transformation, I said. It's about mutual support, sure, but financially bankrupting myself for your surgeries isn't support. That's exploitation. She tried to spin it as me being afraid of debt or lacking ambition. I calmly reminded her that I had my own plans in life. Maybe I'd buy a modest home one day or start a small business. Taking on a mountain of debt for her cosmetic procedures wasn't on my agenda. At that point, she changed tactics, leaning over the cafe table and using a softer tone. Look, I made a mistake leaving you. We can be so great together. Imagine how confident I'll be once I fix a few imperfections. I'll make you proud. She even promised to pay me back, somehow someday, though she offered zero specifics on how that might happen. It felt more like wishful thinking than a real plan. I couldn't shake the sense that she only reconnected with me after discovering that no one else was willing to fund her surgeries. Maybe she realized her credit was too poor, or her family refused to help. Suddenly, I was the best option again, a safer bet than hustling on her own. Anger flared again. Did she think I was that gullible? I told her I appreciated the apology, though it seemed half-hearted, but we were done. I wasn't interested in getting back together. She looked genuinely startled. Perhaps she assumed her emotional pleas and tears would melt my resolve. But you said you loved me, she protested. I did, I admit it. But love isn't enough when there's no respect for boundaries or financial well-being. She tried to guilt-trip me one last time. So you're just going to abandon me in my time of need? I shook my head. I'm not abandoning you. You left me. And your need is optional cosmetic surgery. That's not a necessity. She huffed, calling me selfish, saying I'd regret letting her walk away. I simply stood up, repeated that we were done, and left the cafe. All the way home, my phone buzzed with texts. They swung wildly from apologetic to accusatory. You're heartless, one said. Another read, I'm sorry I panicked. Let's just talk more. I ignored them all. I'd spent a month picking up the pieces of a shattered relationship, only to see she'd learned nothing. Over the next few days, she tried every angle. She sent me voice memos crying that she'd made a grave mistake leaving me. Then she'd pivot to anger, blaming me for not understanding her dreams. She claimed if I truly cared, I'd make some effort. But each message only reaffirmed that the entire conversation still centered on her surgeries, her desire for me to bankroll them, her sense of entitlement that I owed her a new image. I stayed firm. I never responded beyond a final text. I've made my decision. Please respect that. We are not getting back together. She asked if we could at least remain friends. I replied that we weren't on friendly terms because she'd repeatedly tried to manipulate me into taking loans. That's not how real friendship or love works. I blocked her then, deciding enough was enough. Word spread among our mutual acquaintances. Some were sympathetic, having witnessed her single-minded obsession with plastic surgery. Others were confused, claiming I could have just helped her a bit if I loved her. But as far as I was concerned, you don't compromise your financial stability and self-respect for someone who can't respect your boundaries. That's not a stable foundation for a future. Meanwhile, I took stock of my life. I was relieved I discovered her priorities before we made any deeper commitment, like moving in or sharing finances. The heartbreak of losing someone I cared about was overshadowed by the relief of avoiding a lifetime tethered to debt. I realized how important it is to watch for entitlement in relationships. When love gets tied to how much you can pay, it's a slippery slope. She kept popping up on social media, posting selfies with captions about needing a real man who invests in her. I ignored it all. My real friends knew the truth, that she'd abandoned me when I refused to do something foolish with money. And now that her plan backfired, she was desperate to come back, but only on her own terms. In the end, I found a sense of closure. I made sure not to stoop to her level or get tangled in online mudslinging. Instead, I quietly returned to my normal life, focusing on career goals and personal projects. The experience stung, yes, but also reaffirmed that no matter how appealing love might seem, if someone demands you go into debt to cater to their vanity, it's a glaring red flag. If there's a silver lining, it's that I'm now more cautious and better prepared to spot manipulative tactics. The next time someone tries to measure my affection by the size of my wallet, I won't hesitate to walk away. Ultimately, my ex insisted on cosmetic surgeries at my expense, left when I refused, then came crawling back a month later with the same demands. I stood my ground, refusing to reconcile. It was the only sane choice. And ironically, the more she called me selfish, the more I realized I just dodged a bullet.